guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today I'm going to be working with the Everyday Copperplate Sentiments collection, among other things. This part though is for the sentiments. These are some lovely, lovely scripts. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't have anything like that. This says hello, and you can see it's a really nice big plate. Then we've got congratulations. And again, it is a really big plate. And then we've got thinking of you. So 3 very nice sentiments. Great to have on hand, and having basically a big profile on your card, meaning this could be basically your focal point. And since they are BetterPress, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my BetterPress system, and we're going to go ahead and make some sentiments using that one. And then I think I'm going to do it with foil. So I'm using some BetterPress paper today, and I have taken out the additional stem that I usually keep in my BetterPress system. And I've got some BetterPress inks. I'm going to use, like I usually do, the one that is my absolute favorite, and that is this hydrangea. So I'm going to use that one on my first plate, and this plate just says hello. So I've got it down in the corner, so that means it's going to be basically to this side. It's going to be kind of in this area, and I'll leave the rest of the card open for me to use for something else, you know, to add additional embellishments and things like that, since this is just a sentiment. Of course, I can also die cut it or cut the panel down or whatever to use with our sentiment. But first one, I want to see how it's going to look on that panel by itself as a focal image. So we're doing our tap and twist to cover that plate with this lovely ink. And it looks like, okay, that's actually part of the plate. I was thinking that this little mark right here in the center there, I thought that was a hair from my ink pad, but it wasn't. So now we'll just place that right down on top and bring up our die cutting machine and just run that through. And that is gorgeous. And because this is the thicker paper and I don't have an additional shim, it basically pressed perfectly, and it has that really lovely debossed texture. So now that I've got the first 3 done using the BetterPress, and they are turned out so pretty. I mean, look at the congratulations. Yeah, I'm going on and we're going to be using some foil. So the foil I'm starting off with, I may change my mind to do others. This one is polished brass. And I absolutely love how this one looks so much. I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it on black. So that's one reason why I'm using the polished brass. I think that would look fabulously on some black cardstock. So I'm going to trim down my foil. And this is going onto some regular cardstock. Okay, this is regular weight, it's not heavy weight. So that means I need to be a little more careful with it. And I think I'm going to do the same thing I did when I was using the BetterPress. I lined everything up with the grids that are on the BetterPress system. So for this one, we've got our glimmer system, and I've got 4 tick marks there to show the corners of an A2 size card. And we've got the grids so I can make sure everything is lined up straight. And this is going to basically take up almost the entire front of this card. Okay. And lining it up with that grid mark in the center. That looks good. And then I'll put my foil down, making sure it covers the whole thing. I'm actually going to flip it. This side is a little bit taller, and we've got a tall edge on that side. So let's do it that way to make sure we cover the entire image. And then place the card down using those tick marks as a guide. Then I can place my shim and spacer pad there and hit the timer button. Once it stops blinking, we can run this through our die cutting machine and get that wonderful foil goodness. Okay, I can already tell that I did have the foil on there where I needed. That's going to be great. And that is lovely. Oh my goodness. I'm loving this. I am absolutely loving this. I don't know if which... I have to say, and I want you guys to tell me down in the description, which do you like better? The BetterPress or the foil? And even the foil has a little bit of the texture, but not as much. So you really can't tell that big of a difference. But oh my God, I love them both. Oh my goodness. I'm going to finish up some more foiling, and then we're going to put together some cards. So for this first card, I'm trimming down my congratulations in that lovely, oh my goodness, that pretty foil. Just cutting off 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So this is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm being more careful than normal with the size that I'm doing, because I think this is just perfect just as it is, but I think it needs a little something, so that means I want to put some gold around it. And this is some gold mirror cardstock that I cut a couple of leaves out of before I thought about using it as my matting layer. And there's still some room. I could cut something additional out of it, but I think I'm going to just go ahead and glue everything down just like this. I think that is going to be fabulous on a card. Yeah. Plus, I do know that with the mirror cardstock, it does take a little bit of time for the glue to adhere. It's kind of got this metallic feel to it, and I just know that I always have an issue with trying to get anything to stick to it. So here's a couple of the leaves that I cut out. These are from the Simon Hurley. I will look up the name of the die set, but it was the Simon Hurley Twirling Tulips. Everyday Foliage. So these are from the Everyday Foliage. This is part of the Tulip Garden collection, and it's got 3 different leaf pieces, and I went ahead and cut some of those out of vellum and some of them out of gold. But for this first card, I'm not going to actually use them. I'm just going to have just this. That is pretty enough in and of itself, so that it doesn't really need any extra. Although you absolutely could. I can't make myself do it. This is just too pretty. And then I'm going to place an acrylic block on the top and just let that sit to dry. There we go. For most of what I'm finishing up, I pulled out 2 other die sets. I've got the notched corner frames and the Everyday Foliage. So for this second congratulations card, I'm actually taking the second largest to cut out my sentiment, and then the largest die to cut out a shaped card. So this is going to be fun. So when you're wanting to use a regular die as a shaped card, what you do is you make sure that the blade that goes along one of the edges is on the outside of the fold. So right about there. Actually, I'm going to put some tape on the other side so I can try to make sure I get it to stick in place, and then I can tack everything down where I want it. So this die is basically 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm going to line it up on the edge down here and make sure that I'm not over that cutting line for the side, because you know what? If you do, then you're just basically going to cut through the whole thing, and you don't want to do that. Okay, there we go. So now I need to tape these other bits to make sure that they stay in place, and then I can run all of this through my die cutting machine. And then I'm popping this up on some foam tape. So for this one with the pretty foil, I decided to put it on a top folding blue card base, and I pulled out some flowers that I already had in my stash. This is kind of the layout I think I want to go with, so I'm using a sticky mat. This is part of a Nicapa mat that I had cut down, and I'm just going to use that to pick everything up, and then I can start putting it all back down the way I want it. Now this back panel I want to go up on foam, so that's what I'm going to start with. And this last bit of leaves I want to go down flat onto the card, so I'm putting some liquid glue on it and then pressing it back down into the Nicapa mat to make sure it all stays straight. And now I can hover and layer the whole thing down. There we go, and I'm just going to press it in place. Okay, did you guys notice that I forgot to take the release paper off of my foam tape? How many of you guys caught that? Please tell me down in the chat, whether in the comments, whether or not you caught that before I stopped the video. So I still had it attached. I still had my card base attached to the Nicapa mat, so I was able to flip it back. But now I'm going to put it in place. So now it's going to be, that's where it's supposed to go. Yes. And then we're going to gently pull up the mat so it doesn't pull up the flower. Well, it'll pull up the flowers that still need to go down and leave our everything else in place that we already adhered down. Now I can start putting adhesive on some more of this. So it's basically going to be the same process just over and over again until you get everything layered up. And I think I'm going to add foam to the top flowers. So for this one, I used one of the classic fluted frames. This one is the fluted rectangle, and made it a little smaller than A2 size, and then I kind of off-centered it. What I'm going to add next is these couple of pieces that are from the Everyday Foliage. I cut one out of, actually I cut a few out, of gold and out of vellum, and I'm just going to tap that down with some liquid glue across the corner over here. And then we're going to do the same thing with our gold and then put an acrylic block over the top so that they stay in place. So the vellum kind of makes it a little bit softer than just the gold. And that's going to finish up that card. For this next card, I used another one of my fluted classic frames die sets. This time I'm using the ovals, and I just used one of the ovals. The way that those work is there's a fluted frame, and then there is the part that actually cuts it out as this shape. So this is kind of what I have in mind for this one, but I don't need to use up all of that pretty vellum on that one. So I'm going to trim this down so I can use the rest of it on another project. And we're just going to add that little bit there. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually adhere it to the back of my card panel here. And then we can glue everything down as one piece. So I'm using a tape runner for this one, just so that I have a chance of moving it if I want to. So there's got that little sprig up there, and then this is just a butterfly that I found in my stash. I was going through some old embellishments and thought, why don't I go ahead and use that one on this pretty card with all those rainbow colors as a pop of color to this one. I do want to add some foam on the back, so we're going to do that. I put some foam tape over the vellum since I know that's where I want it, so that's going to make it easy for me to place down on my card as well. So let's just get that centered. And now we can add our little butterfly. I'm going to add liquid glue down the center and a little bit of foam to pop up the wings. And I'm going to hold this in place for a minute so that that liquid glue in the center can have a chance to dry. For my last hello card, I'm using the Fluted Frames rectangle again. I love that detail. And just centering that on some foam on a blue card base to match the lettering. And then using another of those little butterflies. I actually found just 2 of these. I'm not sure where they came from. I think it was pattern paper, but I think they're just adorable. So I'm going to go ahead and add that one on just like we did the other. Using a little bit of foam on the wings to help it pop up a little bit, and liquid glue to hold it down in the center. And just holding it in place. I think that's far enough away where I can't use my tweezers, but holding it in place so that the glue will hold, and the wings will automatically just pop up a little bit. So I decided after getting all of that done that I wanted a little bit more. So I'm going to add some baubles that have just been in my stash forever. I don't use them nearly often enough. I'm just going to add a few down to each of my cards. These blue ones match pretty well with the color of the blue that I'm using for this one, that hydrangea ink, and my background, and of course my pretty little butterfly. So there we go for this hello. I think all of these turned out so elegant. I'm actually very, very surprised at how well these turned out. And it wasn't me. It was all, yeah, it was all that Copperplate design for each of our BetterPress plays. I think these are just so lovely. Anyway, because I didn't really do much to put them onto a card. I just did the pressing and foiling, and that just turned out lovely. So you could definitely get the same kind of results. Anyway, let's go ahead and take another quick look at all of the cards that I made today. First, we've got 2 of them using the Congratulations BetterPress. This one is actually using some Ranger Archival ink. I will put down the colors that I used down in the description, but this one is a dark blue. And then this one is using some hot foil that is in polished brass, and that is just super, super lovely. Then we've got the hello, again in polished brass for the foil version, and then in the hibiscus for the lovely BetterPress version. This one uses some additional dyes that came out just recently. These are the Everyday Floral. I believe it's the Everyday Florals. Again, I will list everything down below. And that polished brass foil. And then this butterfly, this just happened to be in my stash. So you go through what you've got. Use up all those extras that I know you do the same thing. You, at least years ago, you stamped out or die cut out or fussy cut out. Lots of extras to use that you never got around to it. Go through your stash, see what you've got, and start putting them on some cards. Yeah, so this one is Thinking of You with that same butterfly and the Everyday Foliage, I think. Yeah, let me look. I have it here. Everyday Foliage die that I did in some vellum. And then this one has some stamped images that have been sitting in my stash from a past, I think it was a clear stamp and die of the month from probably over a year ago, but I think the blue just matches perfectly with that fun foil. And this is just absolutely lovely. Yeah, I can't tell you which one is my favorite, but you tell me, what is your favorite of these 6 cards? And which technique do you like better, the hot foil or the BetterPress, or both? I love them both. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.